welcome to the Chronicles of Nannia, a nanny resource podcast made for nannies by me, a nanny. I am your host, Martha Reddick, and this week we are going to be talking about freelance babysitting and all that world has to offer. And to do that, I have brought on Tori Clodfelter. Hi.
Hello. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's so nice to have you. I'm so excited to be doing this subject and then also to be doing a face-to-face interview.
Yeah.
I know that my listeners may not know when I do it remotely over the phone, but I do, and I love interviewing face-to-face. So
you get so much more, I feel like.
You do.
Know?
Body language and
it really gives
wine.
you a lot, right? Mostly wine.
Mostly the wine. Wonderful. So before we talk about freelance babysitting,
yes,
let's hear a little bit about your background in childcare.
Love it. So I'm from just outside D.C. in Northern Virginia. So I started babysitting like neighbors' kids for like short periods of time in like 7th, 8th grade. And my neighborhood community was pretty tight. So in high school, I ended up like nannying in the summer for like my, mom's friend in the neighborhood, like kind of people like that.
Right.
So that was a lot of like hanging out with the kids at the pool, walking them home from swim practice, making them lunch, hanging out all day. And, it was still a very like casual, I'm making like $9 an hour. Like,
right.
It's, pretty chill scenario. And then I think my sort of nanny, I would say my nanny career, so to speak, sort of started in late high school, early college when I was like full-time driving kids around every summer. I feel like when you drive kids, that's kind of a new responsibility.
Next level.
Yeah, it's a whole nother thing. And so I was working, I think I worked like 4 summers in a row, 40 hours a week, for 2 separate families. And the ages, I had like a 3-year-old, and then one summer I had all the way up to 12. So I think that was kind of where my heavy lifting sort of training happened.
Right.
Took a little bit of a break late college. Moved here in 2015. Worked at a
Here is Chicago.
Here's Chicago.
As a
I'm
reminder.
so sorry. Yes. And worked at a restaurant for like 6 months and hated every moment of it.
I also started when I moved here at a restaurant.
And it just, and as you know, like artist schedule and restaurant schedule are the same schedule. So I like just moved here and felt like I couldn't get any momentum kind of in the artist community. And so then I was like, hey, let's go back to nannying. So got a nanny job here. That was like, part 30, 35 hours a week, which was great for 2 kids. And then they no longer needed me. And so then I moved on to another family for 6 to 9 months. And then they no longer needed me. And then I just kind of finished up my last kind of long-term nanny, very part-time, only about 20 hours a week. At the end of last year, at the end of 2018, with one little toddler guy. So so I kind of then I have been freelancing through all that time as well. So it's been a long tenure, I'd say.
Yeah.
But it's cool to kind of be able to walk in with any age now and kind of have a rapport and having done
a knowledge base.
Yeah, like all right, 5. What's 5? Got it. So
yeah, that is. And I bet working with so many different families in different areas and all that stuff gives you a lot of good tools.
Right, totally. I think being able to be malleable is like one of the best qualities in someone who's taking care of kids.
Agreed.
Because, if there's one thing I've learned is that every household operates so specifically and so differently. And, walking in and being like, I'm going to make this work, is like sometimes all you have going for you.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I also feel like you mentioned artist, and one of the things that you do is improv. And I know that I became a better caretaker when I took improv classes.
Oh my God, it's so
learning
helpful.
to yes and in your life is just the best.
Yeah. And learning how like the outcome is less important than the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this moment, they want to color. But if in the next moment they don't want to anymore, there's no like, you have to finish your coloring. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's just letting go of that, I think was a really nice thing of like, this is what we're doing in this moment, you know? And also the idea too of like, we can clean up later. Like letting go of so much of the need to control, I think is something that improv gave me that in babysitting is very, very helpful.
Yes.
You know, just like I don't know what is going to happen in the next hour, but let's get through this one first. And right now we're looking at a plant.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
I do often tell families that I nanny for, I'm like, if you come home early, just know the house might not be where it's going to be at 5 p.m. when I'm expecting you.
Exactly.
Because I don't necessarily clean up throughout the day.
Right.
Sometimes I do, or we do, but sometimes whatever activity we're moving on to is more important. And, you know, I specifically tell parents that, but sometimes I get nervous because I'm like, the house is a wreck if they walked in right now.
And exactly. And the thing is, too, it's I think any parent can agree that kids are chaos.
Yes.
Kids are it is
Little Tasmanian
just
devils.
little chaos. And I would hope that any parent would rather me be present and available and not like in the kitchen cleaning up after lunch if they needed or wanted something.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what I would hope.
Yeah.
Right. And not
too.
so focused on like, well, the toys that, you know, the magnetiles are still out, you know, and it's like, come on, you know.
Right.
Because I'm also happy to stay for 3 minutes and clean up the living room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about freelance babysitting. So, how do you find freelance jobs?
So, I work for an app called Chime.
Okay.
And Chime is by Sitter City, which is kind of a larger babysitting website, so to speak. And so I got hired in early 2017. They have an office in Chicago. I think they're like San Francisco, Chicago, DC. I think is like where their kind of hubs are. So it's kind of on paper extremely bizarre how it works because parents go onto the app and they say, I need a sitter for these hours. Okay. And 3 of the highest rated sitters on the app, who are the closest to the family in need, show up.
Okay.
And we each have a profile. And that profile has our experience. It has like a little bio. It has a video where we talk about ourselves. It has reviews from other Chime sittings that we've had. And then the family can just pick which one they want.
Out of the 3.
Out of the 3.
Interesting. And the 3 is also based on your availability, right?
Yes, right. So I set my calendar, and I can change it at any time. Like,
That's
I
great.
wanted to work tomorrow. I don't want to work tomorrow anymore. So I took it off my calendar, you know. And it's bizarre on both ends because I receive a notification from the app that just says, Tori, congratulations. You have a sitting with the Barnard family tomorrow at noon. Check the app for details. And I get on the app and I'm like, okay, you know, Katie's 4 and Jacob's 8, and they live at this address and they have a dog.
Cool.
And this is everything I know about what I'm walking into the next day.
Wow.
And they do, I can message the you know, the point of contact, which is either the mother or the father typically. And I can, you know, be like, hey, let me know if there's anything I should know beforehand.
Right.
Which I usually try to do just to be like, our dog is, you know, a monster. Like, it's just like things to know, or like, oh, you know, one kid's going to be dropped off by another sitter. Like, that's always something nice to know. Something like stuff like that.
And allergies.
Right. Just like, you know, if there's a disability, you know, involved, all of those things. And the family only knows my profile. You know what I mean? And they're trusting me with literally the most important thing in their life, you know? So it's definitely, there is sort of this blind date aspect to it.
For sure.
But, and with anything, I've had the best jobs in the world where I have developed a relationship with these families that book me outside of the app now, and we have a relationship. And then I've also walked into scenarios where I've told Chime that they should probably get child services involved.
Yeah.
So there's a huge spectrum. But it definitely, I feel like I'm kind of like a guerrilla warfare babysitter now.
Yeah.
Because like I am able to walk into a space and be like, I can, gather sort of context clues to figure out how this family might operate.
Are you like walking in like Sherlock Holmes?
A little bit.
I see that they crossed out all the men in their pictures.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
Or sometimes it's like, I think you can tell a lot by how messy a house is.
Yes.
I find that very telling of how a family operates. And and when I say how a family operates, I'm not saying bad or good.
No judgment.
No judgment. Just
facts.
This family is loose and they're really just trying to get through the day, and like they might not have be as strict with things. Or if I walk into a house and it's, if they have like 2-year-old twins and it's pristine, this families might have a little bit more rule focus, a little bit more routine focus,
I also find how much like stuff they have.
Yeah.
And Marie Kondo certainly changed that whole scene. But like, yeah, how much if it feels like everything has a place versus it feels like there's stuff without a home.
Right.
That came in later. And that's not necessarily like dirty messy.
Yeah.
It's just it's an observation.
Right. I found kind of it comes down to, what does this family value from a time perspective, right? Because sometimes I walk in to a house that will be cluttered, right? We'll use that, and usually the parent is like, all right, so honestly, like, they can do whatever they want. It's a very like, keep them alive, and usually those are the same families that are like, if stuff gets crazy, just turn on the TV. You know what I mean? Or like, they can play with their iPads or something like that. You know what I mean? And so I think versus typically the houses that are more pristine is like, well, this has to happen at 5:30, and then this has to happen at 6.
Right.
It's time is used differently, and then you have those kind of houses in the middle that are like, it's not necessarily pristine, it's not necessarily cluttered, and those are the kind of chill houses that have, I think, a little bit of both. Right. That's like,
there will be some screen time, but don't get crazy with it.
Or like, dinner can happen in this ballpark. Right. You know what I mean? And, if they don't want to eat, give it a shot. It's like bedtime in this ballpark, Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of, that's, I think, my like detective sort of, what can I gather in 10 minutes about my surroundings that kind of tell me how to navigate this, so.
I also always pay attention to how many books are in a house.
Yes.
Because I think that is really telling, both children's books and adult books.
100%.
Yes. But, when there's a wall of bookshelves, that's a very different value system than
absolutely
a wall of toys or whatever,
movies, whatever it may be. Right. 100%.
And I usually, when I first go to meet a child, I have a little collection of my own library of children's books, and I bring a selection of those.
That is incredible,
because stories are how I love to communicate, and so it's a way to invite them in where they don't have to do anything, other than, potentially sit there and read the story. But sometimes we don't even read them.
And, one thing I have learned is like, any gesture that feels like you're giving them something at the top is like the best thing you can do for a kid.
Yeah.
Because if you make a kid feel special, boom, work's over. Yeah. Work is over, and that's a thing, too, I've learned a lot. That one thing I always try to do, and honestly, it does get hard because if you're like on transit and you're running late and all these things, is know exactly what the kids are names are. You know, like okay, Jacob's the older one, blah blah blah, and like today I had twins, which was that was a lost cause, you know. Or you know, and like okay, like and just so you can, because that, you know, if a stranger walks in and knows your name and you're 5, that's the coolest.
Yeah.
You know, that's the coolest. And I just think that's something I really, really try to do, is make them get on their level, try and shake their hand, you know, whatever greeting I can do. The other big tell about sort of what is a more chaotic versus what is a more structured household is if the kids are at the door with the parent waiting to introduce themselves.
Yes.
Versus if the kids are like running rampage around the house and the mom's just like, I don't, they're somewhere, you know.
I gotta go.
Yeah. And, well, come in. You know, that's gonna elude a lot of things. And I do get a little worried when the kids aren't at least attentive to the fact that a babysitter has arrived.
Right. Because
to me, and this is an assumption I make, and I have been proven wrong, but I have been proven right, that these kids maybe have so many babysitters that this is not a special thing, and therefore the respect for my position could be in question.
Yeah.
That makes me a little weary. So yeah, versus I think if the kids are at the door waiting to meet you, there's this element of like, the babysitter's coming. She's new. We don't know her. Versus like, oh, there's another babysitter, whatever. Right. You know, I think that has a different sort of level of regard for what a babysitter is, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
And I'm also curious, just in my psych brain, of like the attachment style behind that. So we have an episode about attachment theory, but you know, the kids that maybe are anxiously attached or aggressively attached. I can't remember all the names because they change.
Right.
But, you know,
whatever the child psychology terminology is.
Not securely attached kids, if that plays into that. I mean, I'm sure it does, but.
Yeah. I mean, there are, what I hope, right, is that if a family works with Chime, that usually means 2 things. It could mean the worst is that they can't keep a sitter.
Right.
Right. Which is, I've definitely run into those families. 2, they have it as a backup for a regular sitter canceling, for whatever it may be.
Right.
Or 3, they need sitters on short notice.
Right.
As a lifestyle thing. Often and on short notice, excuse me. I've had all 3. I find that kids who have babysitters often, especially new babysitters, i.e. Chime babysitters, are going to be less attached both to their parents and both to me. Right? It's way more about how much fun can we have versus like the people who are providing the fun.
Right.
Because the adult in the room is fluid. You know? Those kids can be really easy sometimes because they're so used to being told, like being disciplined or told what to do by a large amount of people,
right,
that they kind of just like, this person's big, I guess I'll listen to you. You know,
or pretty self-sufficient,
or
I would
pretty
think.
Like
the Matilda.
Yes, I've had that too, where I've had kids put themselves to bed.
Yeah.
At like 8:30, I'm like, guys, it's about bedtime, and I'm, you know, do you want me to walk upstairs and read a book? No, we got it. It's like, I'll be here, you know, but they're just so used to, you know, which also says something about the parents ingraining routine even when they're not there, right? That's I think that's like incredibly impressive. Kids who have a lot of sitters too, the one thing is they might not be attached so much, but they know they've tricked a sitter before and they know they can do it again. You know, I find kids who don't have sitters a lot are less likely to try to, you know, pull one over on you. Yeah, manipulate you.
Yeah.
So, But I have had kids become really attached to me in that one. And that might be a personality thing of the kid too. I think it also comes down to, it is almost like a blind date, right? Because I have a style as a sitter. And I know exactly what that style is. And kind of regardless of as I try to be malleable, but still like, there are things that Tori just doesn't accept. Right? Yeah. I will not accept like, please and thank you happens when you speak to me always. Right. I don't care if the house looks like a barn. Right. You know what I mean? You will say please and thank you. And I think too, like it's, the attachment issue in that short amount of time, right? Because like if I'm working a night gig and I'm showing up at 6, these kids go to bed at 8:30. Right. You know what I mean? Like there's not how much really bonding is going on at that minute. But it kind of, if my style and their routine or their household is copacetic, that's going to behoove attraction on both sides. Right. I feel like. Yeah. Like I'm going to be like, wow, these kids are really great. And they're going to be like, this babysitter's so fun. Because their lifestyle has not rocked me. And my style of nannying or babysitting has not rocked them. Right. So there's going to be an attachment there. Like I babysat for 2.5 hours 2 weeks ago for a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. And 2.5 hours. All I did was cook them pizza, and then they watched like Phineas and Ferb. Excellent choice. And the boy like gave me this huge hug at the end. And he was a cool kid. He also was like a theater kid, so I think that probably had something to do with it. But it's like you never know. You never know. And I mean, and some kids are just more affectionate than others. You know what I mean? Some kids are like, you gave me pizza, I love you. Right. And that's like, and all sometimes that's all it takes. That's all it takes. So, for me too. Right. Exactly. Exactly. I will say there are times where I've had kids lose it when their parents leave. Yeah. And my response to that is, you should not use sitters from time. Right. Right. Or you need to kind of be on a trajectory so that your kids do not, because if you're constant, you know what I mean? Like, right. Because I sometimes you can't win that. Right. You will never beat mom and dad. Right. Yeah. No matter how cool you are. Yeah. And if that happens, sometimes I kind of take a mental note. It's like, these people shouldn't be allowing strangers to watch their kids if their kids can't regroup after that. You know, I mean, if it's 5-10 minutes of sadness, sure. Oh my gosh, by all means. But I've had like 45 minutes of screaming, which is like, that's a developtal thing. Right. And depending on the age. Yes. But 45 minutes at any age is a lot. And if your kid's not ready to have a stranger come in, then that's when you need to find a regular babysitter who your kid can, bond and build a relationship. Right. And have that trust, because having chime sitters roll in and out and have to deal with that, which is, you can't fight that, so I've had that sort of mental note too of like, these people should not be. I am not the right thing for this kid. Right. Yeah. Sort of that outlook. And that's such a hard place to be. Right. Right. Because it's it's I think everyone is aware of like the bizarreness of what this is. Right. You know what I mean? We're both strangers. I mean, it's like the Uber driver. Oh my God. Of babysitting. Right. Exactly. And I already feel weird about Uber drivers sometimes. I know. And I think about like, if you look at like CPS, like a teacher who has to, who is being, going through like the intake procedure of being a teacher. That takes 6 weeks. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's background checks. It's, just to be in a school around kids. Right. And all I had to do was like make a video that's like, I like playing outside. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. And I had a background check, sure. But I'm sure it was like the base level. I had to prove to them I was, CPR certified. But it's just, to me, it's interesting how much parents are trusting. Yeah. Because I am going in with the best intentions. Right. I will follow the directions of the parents. You know what I mean? I will make sure a kid is fed. I will do all these things. I'm not, given how the vetting process was for me and knowing how the other sitters might have also been vetted, I'm kind of like, there's got to be some, lazy sitters working for this app, you know, and the other hand on that is I was told these families were also vetted.
Right.
And I have walked into homes where I'm like, Chime has never been in this house.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So there's, you know, it's crazy that in 2019 this is something that we do.
Right.
As a participant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and everyone is aware.
Is on board.
Yeah.
It's so, yeah.
How does pay work? Is it a flat rate? Did the parents decide?
Right. So so they can pay up to 17 at most.
Okay.
And as little as 12.
Okay.
So Chime doesn't let them pay 12 for more than one kid.
Okay.
I think the parents get suggested rates based on age group and number of kids, right? So the younger the kid, the more they're going to charge. So like I had two 18-month-olds today, and that was $15 an hour because it was like two of them and they're toddlers. Right. So it's harder, you know? But if it's anywhere from 2, and sometimes I'll have like a 5-year-old who's 15, and it's just, but that's about the rate. It's going to be 12 to 17. So that's just the range that the parents get to choose from. If they have more than one kid, they have to start at 15.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that goes. So then Chime takes a cut, a very small cut. They only take 15%.
Okay.
But then we get tipped.
Okay.
As well. And so I've had parents not tip. It looks real bad on their, you know, rapport with Chime if they don't. They're heavily encouraged to.
Right.
Because we're not paid for transportation is the big thing. So I've had to go to Hyde Park. I've had to go to Bronzeville. I've had to go to Far West Side. You know what I mean? So I've had to go to Evanston, you know, so, and I don't have a car.
Right.
So I think Chime, that's the tip that Chime sort of, that's how they encourage it, is like, we don't pay for transit. So please, you know, take that into consideration when you're considering tip.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, I've had 8-hour gigs where I've showed up at 6 and the kid's asleep.
Right.
And I'm making 15. You know what I mean? Like those are the reason I love Chime. You know what I mean? It's because you're walking in, and typically in that case, I'll send them a message and be like, hey, are you, hey, anything you want me to know? And they're like, oh, she's going to be asleep when you get here. So we'll just hook you up with the TV and the baby monitor. And it's like, word, cool. You know, like great, you know, and those, because you're walking in, I'm going to watch TV for 7 hours.
Right.
You know, assuming there's no crisis. You know, but,
which is why you're making $15 an hour.
Which is why, of course.
Because you are there and ready.
And ready
to
if something does happen. Absolutely. Because then in that way, because, you know, sometimes parents too, like I reach out in that way to kind of get warned and kind of know what I'm walking into. But sometimes the parents are just like, yeah, no, we'll see you tomorrow. And it's like, okay, so you're not going to give me anything. Cool. Got it. You know,
information.
So,
all right.
Yeah. So I think, I feel well compensated for what we sort of the nuance of us not knowing what we're walking into.
Right.
But yeah, and also it's great too, because if a family cancels day of, we make $25. They just give it to us. Yeah. Wow. So it's like it's just being like, you know, you set aside time in your schedule for this, and then the parent canceled. So here's 20. Here's something. You know,
that's
so
good.
I know, because they could totally.
That doesn't necessarily happen when you book babysitting on your own.
On your own, exactly.
And so sometimes it does, and it's super nice. If there are parents listening, please keep that in mind. If you cancel day of, that babysitter probably turned down other gigs.
Jobs, absolutely.
Because like this past weekend, I had 4 offers.
I know. This is prime time right now.
It is.
I think winter, and like, you know, everyone's stuck inside, and parents
end of winter. Yeah.
Everyone's ready to go out, and
hopefully end of winter.
Oh God.
So what are some things that you have found help break that ice at the beginning of a new gig?
Well, one thing, at least with kids who are 4 to like, you know, 10-ish, who are going to be a little bit, you know, they're with it a little bit. They're you're a babysitter. What's your deal? You know, they're, you know, I think
feeling you out.
Right. Like, you know, 2-3-year-olds are still kind of just like, play with me. You know, they could care. You're a person who's going to play with them. I think one thing that I really have always valued as a nanny and as a babysitter is I meet kids where they are, but I speak to them like they are an adult. Yes. Right? So typically walk in, I ask them what their names are if they don't say it. And immediately I talk about something that's either in their room, in the living room, or on them that's cool. Yeah. Right? Like, as almost like, what's this? Tell me about this. Oh, your shirt. Oh, dude, your shirt's so cool.
Do you like dinosaurs?
Right. Or like, if the mom might mention, oh, they just got home from school. Okay. What'd you do at school today? You know, like just the full, I think anything you can do to fully invest in them as soon as you walk in. Yeah. You know, that's, I think, like I said, anything you do to make a kid feel special. Or that, because all kids ever want to do is make adults think that they're also adults and that what they're doing is cool, right? So the first thing I do is validate something about them, and I don't care if their shirt has a dinosaur on it. Right. I don't care. But if I pretend, oh, is that a Bronchiosaurus? Is that a Tyrannosaurus Rex? What is that? Oh, I didn't know. Man, you're so smart at dinosaurs. Yeah. Wow. Just immediately validate. Immediately be curious about them. And I think that is, because I think the worst thing you can do is, because the parent is probably going to take you through routine stuff. Right. And I definitely will before we do all that, I'm going to take 2 minutes with the kids and just develop rapport. Because if you're immediately ignoring them to pay attention to their mom, right, that's going to be a pretty big thing to recover from when the mom's gone, you know? And I think too, if there's ever the best thing, I nannied for a child psychologist. So watching her parent was like, I'm sure like a course in developmental education. Right. But the one thing she also says is like any type of, I don't want to, blah, blah, blah. All you got to do is give them a choice and make it seem like it's their idea. Yes. You know what I mean? So then when you hit...
Foster autonomy.
Right, exactly. So, you know, I get there, we're playing. Uh-oh, it's dinner. What's for dinner? Uh-oh, mac and cheese. Oh, no. We were doing so good, but now we have, I don't want mac and cheese. I want mac and cheese. All right, well, mac and cheese is what's for dinner. So here's what we can do. You can have mac and cheese and apples, or you can have mac and cheese and bananas. Oh, boom. Mac and cheese already looks so much more appealing because you got to make a decision about it. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's how, because when I was a nanny, I'm a lot more strict as a nanny than I am as a babysitter. Because I think when you nanny, you're developing long-term routines and ways that you're being respected. And in all honesty, when I go to chime gigs, my relationship with you is until 10 p.m. Right. You know, and then for all intents and purposes, this never happens. Right. You know, so I'm a lot more lax because I'm not, I mean, I have my please and thank you, you know, there is no hitting when I'm in the room. And I have those things always, but like, I'm a little less, oh, well, whatever's on the table, you have to eat. Like that was a nanny rule for me, but it's not a babysitting rule. Right. Because I'm not here to change your whole life. I'm here to feed you dinner and put you to bed. Right. You know? So yeah, but there, obviously there's going to be, you know, pushback, especially with a babysitter. Right. Who they've never had before. Yeah. So yeah, so in those moments, I think I'm always give them a choice. You know, and also my thing too is like, if they said they want the kids in at 8:30 in bed, 8:35 is not gonna, right, you know, ruin their lives. They're still gonna get into college, you know. Yeah. So I am a little lax about those things. Like, okay, guys, your mom said 8:30. So I let them know it's 8:30 right now, but I'm a cool babysitter and I'm going to give you 5 more minutes. So that way at 8:35, they already know that I've done them a favor.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So then they can't come back at me with like, no, we already did a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know?
I
already did you a solid. So now you got to do a solid back and go get ready for bed, you know?
Yep.
So, I mean, there's a lot more negotiating, I think, in when I babysit than I would allow when I would nanny.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Though I will say I nanny negotiators.
Oh, and lovely.
And like sometimes when I'm tired, it's a lot. And sometimes when I'm tired, I admit like, hey, bud, I really need today. I need you to just eat the mac and cheese. But
do you feel like they negotiate for the sake of negotiating, or do you think there are actual? Because sometimes I feel like you just want to win. Or like you legitimately don't want mac and cheese. That's always hard for me to decipher.
When I say I nanny negotiators, I mean I intentionally try to get them to be negotiators because I want them to speak up and to tell me and to
have a
question
say.
And to, because I think that makes good citizens.
Yes.
To not just follow along with whatever I say.
Absolutely.
And so I intentionally try to get them to question things that I say, and
we're having mac and cheeses. Are you sure that's what you want? Yeah. Gotcha.
And things like that. And also
that's really excellent.
Like,
I really love that.
Yeah, encouraging them to ask why. So if I'm like, you need to wear the footy pajamas. Why?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because it's cold outside, but my room's not cold. That's an excellent point. You know what? You can choose.
Wow, yeah.
You know, and like showing them that sometimes
that conversation is a good thing.
And that they can speak up for if they're like, no, I don't want things on my feet. That makes me feel uncomfortable. Yeah. It's like, you know what? You're right. That doesn't matter.
Right.
I don't care.
And I think too that is so great because I think people don't see kids as citizens, you know? And I think that is something that I've definitely learned more recently.
Right.
Is like, yeah, their brains aren't fully formed, and yeah, their reactions might be not on the emotional spectrum of what a mature adults may be. Mm-hmm. But I've had kids teach me stuff all the time.
So often. Every day.
Yeah. And also, like, kids are everything we think and feel, they just actually think it and feel it and say it, you know?
Yeah, they don't have the same filter.
Inhibitions. Yeah. So I think that is really excellent that you see them as people who have full opinions, you know?
Yeah. But it does, and there are certainly days, and because I so often offer choices, you know, down to like as soon as even with the babies I'm with right now, I hold up 2 different outfits, and I'm like, which one you want?
Yeah, that's great.
And they'll one time the baby spent like 5 minutes and she just wanted to play with both of them, and I was like, okay, we can do this. Yeah. And then eventually she like kind of chose one, like, and I was like, all right, unicorns it is today. But
that's great.
Actually, I think it was whales. It was whales that day. But anyway, I try to like offer so many choices, and I think that's a really great way when you're starting from scratch to kind of get kids to be okay and trust you.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But then also there are days like this one day my back really hurt. I had like done a workout or something and then just my back hurt. And so I told them my back was achy and that I didn't want to sit down on the floor that day. I was like, I'm going to be up on the couch, but you know, I'm here for you if you need me to break Legos apart. Yeah. Like I'm here. Yeah. I want to watch you build. Yeah. But I'm just going to sit up on the couch instead of being on the floor. Totally. Because my back is achy. And the kid misremembered. And so like the next week he was like, Marfa, is your back itchy today?
Oh my God.
I was like, no. Oh, and it took me a minute because I was like, no, my back is not itchy. And,
oh my God.
And he was like, well, can you sit on the floor? And I was like, yeah, bud. Oh. And then I got it.
That is so funny.
But yeah, just like if you do say no, explaining why. you're saying no.
Totally. I think the mom of who I nanny for, who was a child psychologist, she definitely did the thing with her 4-year-old more so of, I'm not going to let you openly choose.
Right.
Do you want a hot dog or do you want grilled cheese?
Yes.
Right. Because this particular 4-year-old, that if you were like, what do you want for lunch? We would have been there for an hour and a half.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Same with like her outfits. Do you want to wear the pink dress or the green dress? But there were, and I thought this was a really excellent thing of like, I don't want to go to school. Well, school's not a choice.
Right.
There's no school or not a school.
Right.
Or not go to school. There's just, we're going to school. But what do you want to bring to school? You know what I mean? What toy do you want to bring in the car? You know, but she explicitly would say, not a choice, you know, and just letting them know like this is, you get choices, but sometimes you don't, which I also think is a life thing.
Yes.
You know, like also a life thing. So I think autonomy it's actually more efficient, you know, obviously not letting them dictate their schedule, but like the things that have room, let them have room. Yeah. Because that'll probably alleviate some other fight later in the day, you know, that you're gonna, you know, have to, you know, overcome.
Yeah. And just imagining, I mean, especially with a kid who has a chime babysitter, imagining how many things they get no say in. Yeah. They didn't get a say. Probably.
And me being there.
And you
that's
being
for
there.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would be really interested if any parents let the kids pick between the three.
I have had older kids who, like, you know, in the 7, 8, 9 realm, be like, we watched your video. Blah, 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 you know.
Which I think is probably smart.
Yeah.
For the parents to be like, hey, here's who's coming tonight.
I think, too, though, the parents are reading the reviews and doing the pragmatic sort of like, yeah, her video was cute, but, like, can she change a diaper? Do you know what I mean? Like, those sort of things, you know? But I do think, you know, they probably, you know, I would assume they'd vet, you know, all 3 sitters who were, and then whoever the kids liked. Right. You know what I mean? So I think that but obviously that's not always going to be the case. You know, sometimes the parent, and sometimes, you know, there are heavy nights where, like, on Friday nights, like, I'll get, because sometimes Chime bumps us, like, hey, there's a family who needs a sitter in this, you know, who they can't find anyone, so so Chime is bumping them, and that happens a lot, like, around the holidays. That happens a lot. Summer happens a lot. New Year's Eve, I probably got 25 notifications from
Did
Chime.
you babysit on New Year's Eve?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I probably will someday, just because that money is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there are definitely heavier nights where people need sitters, and you know, families just have to go with whoever's available, if they really want one, you know. So yeah,
that's fascinating. You talked about like making sure that you know the kids' names.
Yeah.
Have you ever forgotten a kid's name?
Absolutely.
Okay. What do you do?
So what I do is I generally, the way I talk to kids is dude, buddy, girl, babe. Like, I have a lot of those words that even if I do know the kids' names, 95% of the time I talk to them, I'm going to use one of those. That's just how my vernacular.
Yeah.
I will go to the bathroom and get on the app.
Yep.
And be like, okay, oh God, it is Ryan. I thought it was Ryan. Because the worst thing I feel like I can do is call them by the wrong name.
Yes.
You know, I'd rather be like, dude, than be like, Chris, Matt,
what?
Yeah. And then they're like, Miles. And it's like, oh, crap. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Ooh, I also wonder if you could, if they're of writing age, if you could be like, let's
write our names.
Write our names.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, too, the name on the app is not what the parents call the kids, which is tough.
Why?
I don't know. Because, I mean, for me, it's like my full name's Victoria. Right. No one has ever called me Victoria in my whole life. If this apartment caught on fire right now and you yelled Victoria, I would be like, there's someone else here, you know? So I've had that, too, where, like, I don't know what to call the kid. So and I've had, because also, it's a name. It's the most subjective thing in the world,
right.
I've also had like, his name is Ryan, but he goes by Bugsy, and you're like, well, okay, cool, Bugsy,
Yeah.
So yeah, but
or if sometimes kids want to be called something different.
Yeah, absolutely.
On like that one day,
right, for that half hour.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, or like, the full name is Elizabeth, but they call her Lizzie. All of those things, which are totally things I can work with. It's just, it's I've had a lot of, oh, hey, Elizabeth, it's Lizzie. And you're like, okay, got it,
yeah.
Noted, got it. Will not happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, kids take everything
very personal.
That's not my name, So it's like, got it, noted.
And especially with a stranger, like everything's...
Because they want you to know them, And I think you not knowing them has like a really to them,
right?
It's this lack of, you don't know me, why are you taking care of me? But it's a trust thing for them, which is absolutely fair. You're a stranger and your mom just left,
right?
And we're just supposed to do the day. It's like,
right.
That's so jarring. So yeah, I try to do everything I can to alleviate that, because I feel like it makes it easier for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. What has been some of like your most favorite things, because you've been a nanny, so you've worked consistently. What's been some of your most favorite things about having, basically new kids every day that you want to work?
Yeah, I love, there's both an anxiety about not knowing what you're walking into. The lack of, because I remember when I was a nanny, I would kind of know, like, I'm going to get there, and, he's going to whine when she leaves, and then she's going to do, and, like, I would, like, the anxiety came from, like, I know what's going to happen, right. And it happens every day, and they don't want to go to soccer, and or, like, there was trauma from the day before that we have to, like, I left the kids, like, didn't have a good day, and I had to go back the next day and like pick up those pieces. It is nice having a fresh start.
Yeah.
Every gig, just like this. And also I'll sit on the bus and be like, this could be the worst 4 hours of my life.
Right.
It could also be the best. I could fall in love with this family. I could fall in love with these kids.
Right.
And that's very like, and if it is the worst, then I just won't work for them again.
Right.
I think that's really nice, is like, this could be the best first date, or it could be the worst first date, and then we won't see each other again.
Right.
Yeah. So I really like that. I really like kind of being in new environments when I work.
Seeing all the different like houses. Setups.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I've been in some expensive houses.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And what I really like is after the kids if it's a night gig and after the kids go to bed, I'll kind of like look at what books the parents have and like kind of see like, oh, like those are their wedding photos. Like, it's cool to be with kids and then learn about the family. Right. You know what I mean? Or like, whoa, like they went to Switzerland last year? That's so cool. This 4-year-old's been to Switzerland. Just like learning about a new family or learning about new kids. I mean, I remember probably about a year and a half ago, I went into this one gig and it was older kids. And it was like a 6th grader, a 7th grader, and an 8th grader or something. Or like some iteration of that age group. And I remember being really anxious because I was like, I haven't worked with older kids in so long. Like, how do I was really nervous about like establishing authority with kids that age and like, so on and so forth. We had the best time. And these girls in middle school like looked to me as like a guru.
Right.
Because I wasn't their mom, but I was like an older woman who, and of course I was like, guys, middle school's the worst for everybody.
Right.
Nothing matters right now. But yeah, and like that was, I remember I left that gig being like, I would just go hang out with them.
Right.
But they paid me,
Yeah.
So I think that's just, yes, there is something terrible in not knowing what's going to happen, but there is something also very exciting and a change of routine. And unlike a nanny job, if it is terrible, you don't got to go back tomorrow.
Right.
You know, so that's also nice too. And I think also some of these parents, because you're from an app, their expectations of your service are very low. Like, I have parents who come back at the end of the night and like, they're like, are they alive? And I'm like, yeah. And the dishes are done. And we had baths, and we picked up our toys, and we sang, you know, bedtime songs. And they're like, they don't eat what?
And I taught them 5 words in Spanish.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just like, and it's just what they told me to do.
Right.
But they're just amazed that it was executed. Because I think for them, it's like, you were just like something to be here, you know, to keep them alive and safe. So it's like, but, you know, and at that point, it's like, no, we're vetted, we're professional. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, so it is nice to get that, like, praise for doing just exactly what a babysitter should do. Like, they're fed? What? Like, yes. Like,
yes.
Yeah, that's my job. You know, so yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the worst things?
I have definitely walked into homes that are, and we were discussing cluttered before, not like that, disgusting, where it was impossible to cook dinner, where I've questioned, and you know, it stinks because it's like, these kids don't choose that, you know, and you know, sometimes I'll just be like, does your kitchen always, like, is there rotting food in the pans all the time, guys? You know what I mean? And just ask these questions. I've walked into a home where the first floor was like beautiful, organized, pristine, but then the kids lived in the basement, and they slept on mattresses on the ground, and the TV was constantly on, and they ate in their beds. They, you know what I mean? And it was just like, what is going on here?
Right.
And I think kind of dealing with that is hard, because it's like, because typically in those scenarios, the kids are going to be a little bit, they're not going to be into cleaning up. They're not going to be, you know, they're going to be more chaotic kids.
Right.
And I can't blame them for the environment that they're in.
Right.
Because they have no say in that. Yeah, challenges too were, you can't break habits in 4 hours.
No.
You know what I mean? So, you know, going back to the please and thank you rule, I can say, oh, what did you want? Can you add a please? I can say that 1,000 times, you know, and at the end of the night, it's like, I have given up. You know what I mean? Like, these kids, they don't say please and thank you in this house, and I probably won't be back here, but I'm sorry that their parents didn't teach them that, you know? And also, yeah, not to judge the kids for the faults of parenting. Right. I think that becomes difficult sometimes, because I am frustrated at the environment we are all in. But that has nothing to do with the 2 little people or 3 little people I'm here with. Right. You know? But yeah, I mean, it is, you know, it is what it is. And I call Chime the next day and I say, hey, I will not babysit for these people again, and here's why. And Chime can handle that as they want to. See fit, yeah. You know, yeah, with the kids sleeping on mattresses in the ground in like crumbs and mustard, I said that explicitly, and I was like, it was a disgusting living environment. Right. You know?
But only for the kids. Right. Which is...
Right, exactly. Yeah. I think, too, I'm very sensitive to if I feel like a kid with speech development, like sometimes, you know, you get a 3-year-old who doesn't speak. You know, and to me, that's a big red flag for me. And if I were a parent, that would also be a red flag. And of course, I don't know if have a speech coach. Like, I don't know these things. Right. But sometimes because that makes it hard for a babysitter. Yeah. That's something that if the parents aren't dealing with it's like, well, I don't know what his hand gestures mean. Right. You know what I mean? I don't know any baby sign language. Yeah. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, so that is a frustrating thing for me. And of course, again, not the kid's fault.
Right.
You know, it's either development thing or the parents are dealing with it.
Right.
Which could also be the case, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that. So that's something I'm very kind of, as soon as I see an older kid who's like not talking, I'm like, this is gonna be a long night.
Yeah.
You know.
Or I also, even with younger kids, sometimes when they're developing their speech and you just can't understand them. And it like, because that has happened with several kids, but I've nannied for them, and then I've learned.
You learn, okay, this,
this word sounds like this out of their mouth.
Right.
But that first, I babysat for a kid a few weeks ago, and he was like a year and a half, and it was just hard to, you know, I was just like, I don't know your and particular flavor.
All I want to do is help you.
Right.
You know, and the kid gets frustrated because they're doing their best to express. And it's just like, you know, I'll go in the kitchen and I'm like, okay, this, and then of course you point to the thing at once and you're like, oh, I guess in some other world that could be that word.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Or I have babysat for a German child who was fluent in German and pretty good in English, much better in English than I am in German.
Yeah.
But you know, she would say something in German, and I would be like, I got nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yikes.
And so, trying to figure that out is hard.
Yeah. And it's just, it's hard too, because you know, because sometimes in that sense, I wonder, I'm like, do they have babysitters all the time?
Right.
Because in that way, I would think that the kid would know that not everybody refers to these things in, you know, in this way or whatever.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, like, oh, maybe they don't get babies, you know, and their parents obviously know what they're referring to always, whether it be a language thing or a development thing, you know. It's so interesting.
I will say, if the child speaks another language and you don't, one of the best things to do is ask them for a book in whatever language they speak, because they probably have books in both languages, and then you try to read their language, because it like humbles you to them, and they laugh and laugh at you, you know, trying to...
Because it gives them status.
Yeah, it does.
That's amazing.
And
that's
then,
a great idea.
Yeah, because she thought it was the funniest thing, me trying to read German words, and it is very, very funny.
Yes.
And then sometimes I would be like, okay, so on this page, I think that this duck wants
oh my
to go to the moon, and she'd be like, no.
That's great. That's so fun.
Yeah,
that's great.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so
that's excellent.
How often do you rebook with families?
I would say I probably rebook about at like 25%.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is a lot of, because I work similar hours weekly. I do predominantly like afternoons or like weekend nights.
Okay.
There are families that I've worked for a year and a half ago and have never rebooked for. But yeah, 25. Right. I think 25 would be a pretty good gauge of that. It's also hard because sometimes if I really like a family, I'll be like, book me outside of the app. Just text me.
Yeah.
Because that eliminates a lot of if you eliminate a third party, it's easier.
And then that 15% goes to you.
And then I get paid in cash, and it's great. Which is a little harder. Like, I have families who I now think like, oh, those are just the Levi's.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, no, I guess they were a Chime family.
Right.
But I just, like, worked for them for so long now. I'm like, oh, there was a point where you didn't know them through Chime. You know.
Yeah. Do you ever have parents that that really try to rebook you or reach out, and you're just like, nah?
Yeah, I had one. Well, the thing, though, is... if you don't want a family to rebook you, have to contact Chime, because you don't get the family's information until you get their booking.
Okay.
And if you cancel more than once in 90 days, you're off the app for 6 months.
What?
I know. It's real. They don't mess.
They do not mess around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a reflection on the app if you cancel. And I think it's if you cancel within like 24 hours.
Okay.
Also. So it's not like if it's, a week before, I think it's a little bit less of a disciplinary action. So I had one family, and this was very early on when I started working with the app. So I didn't understand that like getting booked by the same family multiple times happens. I was just like, there are so many families in Chicago and so many babysitters that would never happen.
Right.
And I worked for a family, and it was just they were just not my jam. Kids, very low discipline. The mom had her own kind of kookiness that I didn't really get. Didn't give me any information when I walked in. Like literally I'd be like, when and what's for dinner? As she's like walking out the house, like they have food, bedtime. Like she was like, these are the kids. Bye. And I was like, and it was just the kids wouldn't go to sleep. It was just a lot of disciplinary, like there was no rules in this house and I just can't do that.
Right.
And they literally got booked the next weekend. So I'm like, I just started with the app. I can't cancel.
Right.
So, I trudge over to their home but I will say that I was taking no prisoners that night because I was like, I am immediately calling Chime.
Yeah.
And I've had this is funny. I've not made my availability like, because I go through spells where I'm in shows and stuff and I just don't have the time. But I've like had moms ask if I could babysit on certain nights outside of the app and been like, hey, if I didn't show up on the availability thing, then probably means I'm not available,
Right.
But yeah, which, I mean, it's a compliment for sure. And I get it. You have a thing and you want to do it and you can't find a sitter. And I will reach out. I will and say if the sitters on the app aren't, looking good to you. I have friends who I can, you know what I mean? So I do try to help them out in that way as just like maintaining that rapport and that relationship. But yeah, I do have moms who will. And I'm like, how'd you get my number? Because you can't see my number on the app. I'm like, how'd you do that? Did you call app? Did you call Chime? Like, it's very bizarre.
That is bizarre.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, it's nice when you do develop relationships. It's not nice when the relationship is one-sided.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was just curious because, you've kind of compared it to blind dating a little bit. And I was like, what happens when?
Yeah, when one person's more into it than the other person. Yeah. And there have also been times where I've been way more into it than they have been.
Right.
Where I'll like leave and be like, hey, like, it's typically like if it was just like a really easy gig, really like cool kids, where I'll be like, hey, like, feel free to reach out outside of the app. And then, like, I'll reach out to them, when I have a lot of availability and be like, hey, just so you know, I'm free, like, all week. And they're like, great, got it. I'm like,
you're like,
got it. Okay, cool. All right. Noted. Take it.
I hear what you're saying.
I'm gonna back off. So, yeah.
That's so interesting.
It's yeah. It is like, it can work for one side and not for the other.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I've had families like, gosh, I'm like, you like kids loved you, and I'm like, well, they didn't act like they love me,
right?
So
that's so interesting.
Yeah,
that you would say that.
It's weird that they said that because they were terrible to me. So it's interesting.
That is.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I feel like we covered.
I've got a story if you want a story.
Yeah. Before we get to that,
great.
If you are listening and you have a question because you're like, oh, my nanny hours just got cut back and this seems like potentially a good way to stay with my nanny family, but also make money.
Right.
And we didn't answer a question that you have, please write in to chroniclesofnania@gmail.com and I will get in touch with Tori because I would love to have a reason. And and then I can get that question answered for you.
Oh, love that.
And then also be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter if you want. And I don't tweet often. It's not my jam. But Instagram for sure.
Absolutely. That's great.
And please send in stories. I'm with babies right now, and they smile and it makes your whole day better, but I can't tell that story at the end of episodes every time because that's just not that entertaining, although in the moment it is. So send in stories because I would love to hear them. And if you are also a nanny that is looking for a nanny position, there is a website called Via the Village. There's also a Facebook group, and there definitely one in Chicago. And they're building new cities every day. But go visit Via the Village. It's a really good community, and they also, even if you're not looking for a nanny position, they also have like nanny meetups where you can meet other nannies to vet them for potential play dates, because sometimes talking to a grown-up is just the best.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, check them out because they're doing really good stuff. So I highly recommend them. Great. So we end each episode with a cute, funny story, and Tori has brought one.
Yes. So I have mentioned her several times, but nannied for a child psychologist who and like she was just a joy to nanny for, and she had a 4-year-old daughter, and they were very with it as far as gender goes in their house. As far as no toys were gendered. The 4-year-old did not princesses and like Barbies were not a thing. Right. And another part of this incredible sort of wokeness, I will say, for lack of a better word, is when she turned 4, her mom got her this book, and it was about where babies come from. And obviously not the first thing that happens, but starting from like the mommy's belly starts to grow and all of these things. And these are all this is all the anatomy. These are all of the parts. And then it went into like some stuff about like touching yourself and how that's like an acceptable thing to do in private. And, these are your parts and they belong to you. And it was just a really great book.
Yeah.
And she was obsessed. It was her favorite book for like a month.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm digging this. I'm like learning things too. I'm like, really? That's where that is? Cool. News to me. But it was right after the 2016 election. Like I'm talking day after. And we were all in a terrible mood. Right. We all were sad. And, as I think women too had this like different reaction to that too.
Some women,
exactly. And I'm driving her to school, and we're waiting outside her school for the doors to open because there was the morning class and then she was the afternoon class. So we're waiting in the car, and I'm just sitting in the front. I've got music playing, and she's just staring out the window, like just staring, just thinking about something. And I'm probably thinking about the events of the night before and being sad. And after, it must have been 5 minutes of silence, and she just looks out the window and she goes, Tori? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, my vagina is beautiful and it's only mine. And Martha, I bawled. Yeah. I just cried, and it was the most cathartic, but it gave me, I was like, these are the women of the future. And I was just like, I'm like, yes, it is beautiful and it is only yours. Okay. It was just an incredible moment. And, she had no idea what was going on in the grandiose of the world. Right. And it was just
like kids pick up on more than you think they do.
I know. And it was just, it was clearly the timing of this book. And she just was contemplating that and wanted to tell me that. And it was just a funny, adorable, sweet moment of joy. you know. So yeah.
I love that.
I know, it was great. It was so great.
That is. Yeah. Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And thank you for being here.
Oh, this was so fun. Thank you so much, Martha. This is a great podcast. I think it's doing a lot of good.
Thank you
for the nanny community, and we need that. So.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I know it does me a lot of good, so that's one of the reasons I keep doing it. Yeah. So, awesome, and thank you all for listening. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Chronicles of Nania is produced and hosted by Martha Reddick. Artwork by Noni Amadan. Theme music by Brad Kemp. Find him at secondbedroomstudio.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Chronicles of Nania and on Twitter at Nania Podcast. To contact us, email chroniclesofnania@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
This show has been brought to you by Machine Culture.